So I'm starting over the Eastwind jacket. I just started it. I just cast on last night and knit maybe an inch. So it's not that big of a deal, but here's what it is gonna look like. I knit a swatch here. And I wasn't happy with it. Number one, I need to go down a needle size. So I'm gonna go down a needle size to 3.75 millimeter. This was 4 millimeter. And it's hard to tell actually because of the gauge, but there's a nice little texture there, just a subtle texture. But I wasn't happy with the fabric. It is outerwear. I'm supposed to wear it outside. Well, it's a jacket. But I'm probably gonna wear it more inside, just when I'm cold. And fisherman's wool is just too rustic for me. But the Cascade 220 that I was hoping for was out of stock. See, I have one skein. So I thought, all right, well, I'll just get the fisherman's wool. That'll be fine. It's outerwear. But then I knit the swatch and I just wasn't happy with it. So I decided this morning to take a look at yarn.com and they had it back in stock. So I'm gonna return the fisherman's wool and I ordered 6 skeins of this. So I will have 7 skeins and I'm pretty sure that's gonna be enough for the jacket. So I will probably use the doe skin heather scraps I have for the contrasting color. But for now, I can start the Eastwind, but I pulled this out from under my bedside table. I have a sock that I need to do. I'm almost done with the cuff, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the cuff. Grab my double pointed needles, maybe work on this sock for today, and just, this is one of those side projects that gets just put away for months and months. So before I get started on Eastwind, maybe I'll do some progress on this. I'll make some progress on this. These are the Stone Socks by Laine in, I believe the book is 52 Weeks of Socks. It's very textured. There's slip stitches that create this interesting texture here. So it's kind of an interesting pair of socks, but I want to get it done eventually. So that's what I'm up to right now. a point where I am tired of knitting the sock. I did the heel turn and the gusset, and I started on the foot. I just had to fix some mistakes, and I'm finding myself not wanting to reach for it anymore to knit on it. So I'm going to put it down. Who knows when I will finish it, but I'm going to put it down and I'm going to start on my Eastwind jacket. Let me bring you all up to speed on what's happening with this project. I showed you the swatch in the beginning. It was 18 stitches per 4 inch. I'm looking for 21. So I went down 1 needle size. Let's see. It was originally a needle size 6. Okay, I went down to a size 5. Okay. I started knitting and I got about 3 inches and I realized that it was only 19 stitches per 4 inch. And I thought, all right, well, I did another sort of novice move where I was like, let me just put the smaller needles on. So then I switched to a size 4 and just continued knitting on the same piece. And I was still only getting 19 stitches per inch. And so what I think is going on is that the original pattern calls for a DK weight with a mohair held together. And I think that's more of a light worsted weight than a worsted weight. And this is worsted. This is Cascade 220. And I think this is just regular worsted. And I think it needs to be a little bit lighter in order to get that gauge. I'm not going to go down another needle size. I mean, it's very small. Needle size 4, US 4. I don't want to knit a US 3 with worsted weight yarn. It's ridiculous. It's uncomfortable. It's not going to work. So instead, what I'm going to do is, well, what I did do is I ripped it out again. And I decided to do the math to figure out what size I should knit, because I was originally knitting a size 3, but with the change in gauge, I'm going to knit a different size instead of changing the needle size. So here's the formula. You want to look for your gauge ratio, which means you're going to divide the pattern gauge that you were looking for by your gauge that you actually got that you want to knit with. And then you're going to take the pattern circumference, like the circumference of the sweater that you were intending to knit on the pattern for your size, and you multiply that by this gauge ratio that you've got up here. And that will give you your new circumference for the sweater in your gauge. So my solution is that instead of knitting a size 3, I'm going to knit a size 2 just with a gauge of 19 stitches per 4 inch. And so I want to find out what bust circumference I'm going to get with that size change, just to make sure that this is going to be the correct size. So what you do, and what I did, is I took 21, which is the original pattern gauge, 21 stitches per 4 inch, and divided that by 19. Then I took that number and I multiplied it by the size 2 bust circumference in inches, which is 53. I multiplied the gauge ratio by 53, and I got 58.5 inches. So if I knit a size 2, instead of getting a 53-inch body circumference, I'm going to get a 58.5 body inch circumference. Does that make sense? So again, that right there is the calculation you need to do if you're ever just trying to figure out what your new size is going to be if you can't get gauge. And so I've started on that right here, and I did decide to use the doeskin heather for the contrasting color instead of the fisherman's wool, which I think is looking nicer. I think it's looking nicer. So that's the update, and we're still at the very beginning of this project, but it's worth it to get it right when you first start rather than try and fix it later on.
Kick.